I've just got you 2 folders, yeah, I've got the STC, one folder.
Oh yeah, that's it. I'm just waiting for Good evening, councillors and members of the public, and welcome to the Sandwich Town Council meeting of the Ordinary Council on Monday the 25th of March 2024. Okay, just comments. I've got some. Item number 1 is Chair's opening comments, and the first thing I wanted to say, there is a volunteer charity evening tomorrow, and there seems to be a bit of confusion, but the councillors are more than welcome to come along to the volunteer evening. I'm not sure exactly where it is.
It's going to be in the jury room.
Oh, in the jury room at, I think it's 7 p.m. 6:30. At 6:30 p.m. tomorrow. Apart from that, well, I almost got it right. But if an individual email hasn't gone out, all STC councillors are welcome to come along and support the volunteers from the town. So that's item number 1. Thank you very much. Item number 2 is we had a very, I believe I was there. At the weekend we had a very successful 3-day market, and despite the bad weather, we had some very good feedback from it, and I believe several of the stallholders wish to rebook in future, which is really good. But I wanted to make this publicly clear that this market is selling items that are not sold at the farmers market on a Thursday, so we're not trying to replicate anything that we're already doing. And the other matter is the income for it is going to pay off the public works loan. So the money from these markets, whether they're from another company or something else, will pay off the public work loan. So, and that is really important. We really need that. I also wanted to congratulate all those that came along we had a very successful Keep Britain Tidy litter pick, which we started on the Guildhall forecourt here, and we had a number of councillors, and we had some it's very nice to see some young children attending as well, and we had a 2-hour litter pick, and then we've got another one this Thursday down on the quay from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, if you're able to make that as well. I also wanted to thank, I might have to ask Councillor Marie here, but the community, what's your group called? Sorry. The DDC Community Caretakers, who also attended and also helped out on that. So thank you very much for that, Councillor Marie. Also, I wanted to note thanks to the Finance and Assets Group, who have visited another one of our Town Council's assets, which was Boatman's Hill Chapel, and I'm hoping that there'll be a report on that later on. And then I had, the last item I had was to do with councillors' constituency work. And just as a bit of a guideline to any sort of new councillors that don't know, but when residents approach you with issues or concerns, it's your duty as a councillor to look into those issues or concerns, try and research them, and then if you do need help or advice, to come to the town clerk. So obviously the town clerk is exceptionally busy, and so we can't expect the town clerk to do all our constituency work, but we can ask her for advice or help. I hope that's clear. So thank you very much. Item number 2 is apologies for absence received. Town clerk, do we have any apologies?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Nick Gray, who's got a travel commitment, Councillor Peter Bringhurst, a personal commitment, and Peter Gill, the community warden, sends his apologies. Thank you.
Super, thank you very much for those, Town Clerk. Item number 3 is declarations of interest, and this is to receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respect of business to be transacted on the agenda tonight. Do we have any declarations of interest for, this is for the Sandwich Town Council agenda only currently? That's a nil return, thank you very much, Town Clerk. Item number 4 is minutes of the full council meetings and committees, and the first one is to approve the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Sandwich Town Council held on the 26th of February 2024, and to consider any matters arising from those minutes not covered elsewhere in this agenda. This is attachment 1A, if you have this one. Councillor Morehouse, can you please stand and speak?
Draw your attention please to item STC 022422, the weekend market inquiry. At the last meeting there were 14 councillors present and 12 of us voted in favour of this market proceeding, and there were 2 abstentions. Nobody voted against. On Sunday the 10th of March I noted a comment made by Councillor Murray on the Sandwich Kent Facebook page stating, "Absolutely disgusting prices for a pitch for a food fair, and they don't even use local businesses or traders." Well done to Sandwich Matters majority for taking even more money out of our local trades. The vitriolic nature of the post led me to respond somewhat pithily by suggesting that Councillor Marie's comment was an infantile temper tantrum. Putting the Facebook war of words to one side, my issue is that after agreeing to proceed with this event democratically by majority vote, we as a council should not tolerate one of our own councillors attempting to undermine an event that an overwhelming majority of us present in this chamber on Monday the 26th of February felt was necessary as a source of income to meet the cost of the Guildhall forecourt refurbishment. If we as a council choose to brush this issue under the carpet, we'll be making a rod for our own backs. As subsequent comments from Councillor Marie paint a picture that suggests that this council needs to be held to account for the disasters that the Sandwich Matters majority caused. He also suggests that we're persecuting charities, our anti-community events and anti-business. In a further fit of pique, I was reminded that my moronic colleagues and I voted to charge events for using a Guildhall forecourt and voted for Zoom events to be able to make use of the space this weekend. We cannot allow this council to be faced with a tirade of insults and unfounded accusations of persecution every time we democratically vote for a decision that Councillor Marie disagrees with. I think I've said as much as I want to. Thank you.
Is it directly
Yeah,
on the
it is.
item?
It's fine. Mr Mayor, thank you. My comments stand and they will remain standing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, that's noted. Did we have any other comments on the quarterly meeting from the 26th of February at all? Any other?
Say approve the minutes.
Thank you very much. And do I have a seconder? Okay.
Who was that, sorry?
Oh, that was Councillor Tuker. There was a couple, Councillor
Yes.
Tuker there.
Thank you.
And all those in favour, please signify with your cards and hold them up, please. Thank you. Well, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, councillors. Okay, and the next item is to receive the minutes of the planning meeting held on the 7th of February 2024, and this is attachment 1B. Do we have any comments or concerns over the planning minutes at all? If not, could I have a proposer and seconder? Councillor Franklin and Councillor Tuker. And all those in favour, please show. That's one,
Three
abstentions.
abstentions.
Three abstentions. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And those are passed. Next is to receive the minutes of the Heritage and Townscape Committee meeting held on the 8th of January 2024, and this is attachment 1C. Councillor Anderson, would you like to
These minutes should not have been brought because we did not agree the minutes at the last meeting of Heritage and Townscape Committee, and we voted for them to be deferred to the next meeting of the Heritage and Townscape Committee. So they shouldn't be approved by this
Okay.
council.
So if that's everyone's agreement, they're deferred. Is that?
Yeah.
You voted to that effect, yeah?
Yes, well, you were there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
All those in favour of deferring the minutes of Heritage and Townscape meeting to the next full council meeting, please show.
Excuse me, is it to the next Heritage and Townscape Committee?
Yes.
Not the full council meeting, it's the Heritage and
Oh, they've been deferred
Yeah, Heritage and Townscape will look at them
before.
at the April the 11th meeting of Heritage and Townscape.
All those in favour of these minutes being deferred until the next Heritage and Townscape meeting, could you please show now? That's agreed. Thank you very much. To receive the minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee meeting held on the 19th of February 2024, and this is item 1, attachment 1D. Do we have any comments or queries on this at all? If we don't, could I have a proposer and seconder for these minutes, please? Councillor Wiles, and do we have a seconder for those at all? Councillor Franklin, thank you. And all those in favour, please show. One deferment. Thank you very much, councillors. And then item number 5 is payment schedules. 5A is to receive and note the payments for the mid-March totalling £29,515.77. Those payments which are not supported by a minute reference have been authorised by officers with delegated powers of expenditure. That is item 2A. And then item 2B is to receive and approve the scheduled payments for March totalling £35,035.07, and that is attachment 2B. Do we have any questions or queries on items 5A or 5B? Okay, could I have a proposer and seconder for these? Councillor Chukla, and could I have a seconder to Councillor Chukla? Oh, Councillor Pennington, so thank you very much. All those in favour of these two documents, please show. Thank you very much, that's passed. And item 5C, Council to confirm nomination of 2 signatories to authorise end of March payment schedules on Bankline. And item 5D is Council to confirm nomination of 2 signatories to authorise the mid-April 2024 payment schedules on Bankline.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, can I just add that the authorising will need to be done by 12 noon on Wednesday this week, because we need to factor in, obviously we've got the 2 bank holidays. So whoever agrees to authorise it, they will need to do it by 12 noon on Wednesday, please. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any nominations at all to do that? Are they all set up? So we've got
Yes,
Councillor Franklin and Councillor Wiles.
Okay.
And that is, are you able to do both of those? Are you able to do?
Is it set up? I'll do it.
Yeah, it should
They're set up.
Yeah, you're set up and Councillor Wiles is set up.
Yeah.
I'm actually in London, so I can't put myself forward, I'm afraid. So all those in favour of Councillor Wiles and Councillor Franklin being the signatories for these, please show. Thank you very much, that's passed. Thank you very much. And item number 6 is public participation, and this is a 20-minute session. Is set aside for members of the public to make representations at the meeting in respect of the business on the agenda and other matters if time permits. Individual representation should not exceed 5 minutes. Written notice of the desire to exercise the right to speak together with the topic to be addressed must be given to the town clerk prior to noon of the day of the meeting. Do we have any?
We do 5 people. So Mr Morris Bitton is your first.
Okay then. Oh, super. Could I ask Mr Morris Bitton to come and speak? Would we be able to ask you to come and stand up here? Is that okay for you, Christina?
Do you want to be on camera or off?
I don't mind.
I don't mind.
It's okay. We need you to just come a little bit further and turn around, and you need to address the council with your subject. And you have 5 minutes in which to address it. Please do not use any rude words or personal comments about members.
Is it Big Brother?
Indeed. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, and thanks for the opportunity of letting me speak this evening. Before I say anything else, I just want to say that the 40s, Sandwich salutes the 40s festival, which I'm very much in favour of, because I think it's a wonderful thing. It attracts a lot of people to the town. We enjoy it, but there are some participants dressed in Nazi uniforms, which I find personally very distressing. And when I saw it last year, I was going to say nothing. I walked by with my dog, but I thought, no, I'm not going to stay silent. I'm going to go and speak to this chap. And I asked him if he understood how offensive the uniform he's wearing could be to some people. Well, I got very short shrift from him. I looked out the organiser, Mr. Mallet, who I went and spoke to, and absolutely no sympathy whatsoever. It's a historic event. Well, it may be historic, but it's certainly nothing to do with Sandwich. And it, the fact that I read some of the things that have been said, and one of the conditions apparently is that they agree, or Mr. Mallet agrees, that there should be no Gestapo or SS uniform. Well, personally, I don't see the difference. I see a Nazi officer, a chap with jack boots and a whip, and it's highly distasteful. I've spoken to a lot of people in Sandwich, neighbours and friends, and everyone feels the same way. And I just think that I certainly don't want the event to be I don't want to interfere with the event, but I think there should be a proviso that there should be no Nazi representation, and that's all really.
Thank you very much. Before you depart,
Yeah.
I believe it's our duty to
Yes.
actually say what we can actually undertake to help you with this. I was just wondering if Councillor Mallet, would you be able to, as the organiser, would you be able to contact Mr. Bitton to perhaps explain things further or take this further at all?
I can again. We've spoken on a number of occasions.
Twice.
And the emphasis I've made is we have a particular rule that no political statements, no political emblems or anything of that nature, unless it is forced on the uniform. And that was adhered to. There were no Gestapo, there were no SS, there was no whip. The gentleman in question, he's an 80-year-old. He is very particular as to having the correct Wehrmacht uniform. It is not a Nazi uniform, only in the sense it is German, and the Nazi party was in charge at that time. And his comments to me was he was abused by Mr. Bitton, and this went on for some time. And after putting up with it for some time, eventually he said, "Piss off," if you'll pardon my expression.
Please.
And that was
Can
it.
I actually stop this here right now? What I wanted was some sort of, perhaps outside the chamber, something to be undertaken by yourself as an organiser and by a disgruntled resident. So could I perhaps ask, would the two of you be able to correspond or contact each other to sort this out separately?
Quite frankly, the response I've just heard doesn't give me much confidence, so I don't think there's much point really.
Okay then.
So I'll just not go to the festival.
I'm very sorry to say about that.
It's a great pity because I don't see the difference between. I mean, to say that it's not a Nazi uniform. I mean, that's absolutely preposterous thing to say.
Yeah.
You know, it is a Nazi uniform.
Yeah.
It might not be SS, but it's Nazi.
Councillor Anderson, did you have a point?
Also, I think most of you know that I'm the daughter and granddaughter of German Jewish refugees, and I also saw this gentleman at the last Salute the 40s event, which, like Mr. Bitten, I also think is, on the whole, a good idea. I went and had a very close look at him. I didn't actually speak to him because I thought, I was very upset, to put it mildly. I thought, I might, you know, be rather over-emotional. Anyway, I looked very carefully at his uniform, and it is a Wehrmacht uniform. It's not an SS or a Gestapo uniform, but a Wehrmacht uniform has, as part of its decoration, a belt which says Gott mit uns, and swastika emblems above an eagle, and that was the standard uniform for the Wehrmacht during the Third Reich. And it's not very pleasant for somebody of my kind of background to encounter a swastika in my hometown, where on the whole I feel utterly safe. I then went to talk to Mr. Mallet, as he was then, about it, in, I felt, as cool a manner as I could. And he walked back with me to my house, because he was going in that direction anyway. And as we walked, I said to him, to Mr. Mallet, what really worries me is why somebody should buy that uniform, because that's what you do, that's how you access it. You buy it. In fact, I went online yesterday and found a whole lot of these uniforms for sale, books about them and so on, and I had a very close look at that eagle and swastika, and there was more than one swastika on the uniform. And Mr. Mallet said, to my astonishment, maybe he likes Hugo Boss designs, which I felt was not a particularly appropriate way of handling an issue which is of deep importance and deep meaning to many people in this country, and I had already expressed coolly, I thought, with very little emotion, my own concerns about it. So what I wish to hear is some guarantee that at the next event, which I hope occurs, if anybody does turn up in that sort of uniform with those emblems upon it, because if it's a correct uniform, that's what they will have, is simply asked to leave. Because that would be, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sure Mr. Bitten, the right response, and one that I think I'm hoping many people in Sandwich would support.
Thank you for that. I must actually say at this point, this is not a participation by councillors part of the session, and the town clerk is probably seething at me letting any councillor speak at all, but we are supposed to give the speaker a reply as to what the town council will be doing about this. So all I can suggest, I'm afraid, is that obviously the town council can send a letter to the organisers and ask them to curtail the use of any SS or Nazi uniforms for you. But I'm afraid that's as far as we can take it. Okay then, but thank you very much for highlighting this issue to us.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Our next speaker is Mrs. June Summerhays on the White Mill Rural Heritage Centre. Would you like to come and stand up here, please?
In and out. Oh, I don't know. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I have submitted a grant application on behalf of the White Mill. It's the first application I've ever made, so please forgive any omissions or errors, and feel free to ask me questions when you discuss it. You are no doubt aware that STC owns the mill, and volunteers have been working tirelessly for over 40 years to restore it. Many are no longer with us. We are hoping to have the mill back in working order very soon, but we need your help. Last year we received no grant funding whatsoever, and we only have a tiny income, all of which goes towards restoring the mill. We are requesting £2,160 to cover the cost of the crane to reinstate the sweeps or sails. We are aware, however, that STBF has its own financial difficulties, and even half that amount would be gratefully accepted. Recently we had a problem with our accounts, and as a result we are changing the way they are audited. This new way of working means that we will no longer be allowed to apply for local authority grants. That makes this application all the more important. I can't find any reference to the mill being awarded a grant in the past, certainly nothing in the last few years. So this is likely to be our one and only chance, and your one and only chance to help us. Reinstating the sweeps will return the mill to its former glory, and it will make it once again the iconic part of the Sandwich landscape that it should be. We will have an open day when the sails have been reinstated, and it will be a marvellous spectacle. Please come along and enjoy it with us and spend some money. It will be an opportunity for you to meet with the volunteers, show your appreciation for the work they have undertaken over the last 40 odd years, and hopefully have some pride in knowing that you've helped us with this part of the major part of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mrs. Carol George, who wishes to speak on Sandwich in Bloom. Would you mind coming up and addressing the council, please?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Evening.
Madam Deputy Mayor and Town Clerk and all your councillors. Given the wonderful support that we gain from Sandwich Town Council, the main purpose of my address is to keep you in touch with Sandwich in Bloom activities, especially as we are submitting an application for funding, which I hope you will feel able to support. We're a very small band of volunteers, 8 committee members and a further 11 regular volunteers, that believe we continue to achieve a great deal that ensures the town is a bright and happy place for residents and visitors alike, and a blooming Sandwich is how we aim to support our local businesses and encourage tourism. In 2023 we managed to maintain the floral offering that you have all become accustomed to, but in addition to this we created the small garden around the bus shelter, celebrated the King's coronation with streamers and a small flower bed that surrounded the beacon, and added hanging planters and even more spring bulbs to St Mary's Church grounds. Spring bulbs were also added to the base of all the white gates as you enter into the town. Thanks to the funding that DDC actually did give us, we were able to replace the broken apple crates behind the Guildhall and on the quay. And last Christmas we contributed to the lights in Sandwich by placing and lighting 12 Christmas trees in St Peter's Gardens, and donated Christmas tree vouchers to 12 users of the pantry to help bring a little extra cheer to them and their families at Christmas time. As stated, a small but dedicated group, many of whom already volunteer within other organisations and will be known to you for their other good works. So I would like to mention them here tonight, as I believe they deserve a special thank you, as so often these volunteers are unsung heroes whose commitment helps to maintain our beautiful town. So we have Jill Griffiths, Margaret Wills, Chris and Angela Day, David and Christine Silk, Yvonne Waite, Richard George, John Vanderdoel, Dawn Baxter-Phillips, Kevin Wright, Dee Govan, Lucy Dent, Jeff and Lorraine Franklin, Helen Smith, Anne Fox, Emmett Suker and Lynn Ripley, and of course Sarah Doyle and her fantastic team at Archers Low, not to forget our very newest and youngest member, Florence Doyle, who will be 1 year old next week. When looking at the year ahead and reviewing new initiatives, we always have to consider maintenance issues. 2024 is no exception, and our committee are planning several exciting ideas. A planter for the pavement outside Sandwich Infant School has been agreed. This will achieve two aims. One, to stop the rogue and dangerous parking on the paved area, and two, to an interaction with children as they plant and tend their own container. The two beds at the train station need an overhaul, as do the riverside planters, as they are not very water efficient and need repair or replacement. We're hoping that DDC will be able to help a bit with this. This being an Olympic year, we're also considering an interactive floral tribute in recognition of the Olympics. I have approached Friar Sebastian at St Clement's, and I am hopeful that in collaboration with St Clement's, we might see in 2025 the Little Gardens of Sandwich re-emerge, as this was always a popular activity. One of our aims has always been to encourage local residents and businesses to display their own floral offering, and this year, by way of acknowledging their contribution to a blooming Sandwich, we will be launching the Little Card Scheme, which is aimed at thanking those contributors with a personal letter and a small card that can be placed in their windows. While our ambition to expand our offering is always an agenda item, consideration must first be given to funding. Hoping for some financial support from local businesses, we hand-delivered 30 letters to companies on the industrial estate and outskirts of the town. Unfortunately, we only received 2 responses. Our sincere thanks go to Minters and Royal St George's. We also continue to look at obviously other funding opportunities. However, with average costs per annum probably reaching around £6,500, and our desire to ensure we keep Sandwich in bloom throughout the year, we are asking once again for your help and trust that you will look favourably on our grant application. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
And,
could I ask that they're handed out afterwards?
Yeah, I was just going to put one down and ask them to hand them out.
Thank you very much.
If I give that to the town clerk, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mrs. George. And our next speaker is Willie Cooper with regards to the Deal Music and Arts Society. Would you please come and address the council when you get past? Thank you. My colleagues.
Am I here?
You could be.
Are you okay being filmed?
Yes, it's fine.
You
Yes,
are.
fine.
Yeah, if you could stand and address council, you've got 5 minutes.
I'll only be 2 seconds.
Oh, super.
Good evening to me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for letting me come and talk to you tonight. You've given us a lot of support in the past, and I hope that you will again. I just wanted to say 1 or 2 things about Deal Music and Arts, which you probably may not realise. We are obviously a charity. It costs actually, we run year-round learning and participation all over the place, and that actually, our budget for that each year is £100,000, and we have to find that £100,000 because we don't actually charge for many things. We do run a music centre, which we do charge a small fee. I think our fees over the year come in at about 11,000, so the rest has to be found. Today we've been at Roger Manwood's and we've been at Sandwich Technical School. We're doing a big photographic competition this year. The photographs will be displayed all the way at the Linen Wood Studio and Deal throughout the festival. So, that's one thing. The next thing we do, of course, is our annual festival, which this year starts on the 4th of July. The budget for that is £141,000, of which we hope to get maybe, if we're lucky, about 60,000 back in ticket sales. So you can imagine, again, we have to find every penny to make it work. In Deal, in Sandwich this year, we're going to be at St Clement's Church with 2 concerts, one an accordion player and another one we're going to do on the last Saturday of the festival, we're doing the whole of the Bach Brandenburg concertos, and we're going to do some Bach on the lovely new organ at that church. And we're also going to, because it's part of the GCSE this year, we're going to invite local schools to come into those concerts for free. We've got the BBC broadcaster Tom Service talking there, Sir Nicholas Kane, so it'll be great. The other thing we're doing, which is the real highlight of the year, I think, this year, at St Mary's Art Centre, we're going to be doing Mozart's The Magic Flute with the most wonderful, I saw them at Hever Castle, a wonderful group of people. It's costing us over £8,000, so we will need lots of support for that. So I hope that you'll look on our application, and just thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Cooper. Thank you. And our last speaker tonight is Mr. David Silk, who is going to speak on Sandwich Salutes the 40s. Are you okay being on film?
Yeah.
You've got 5 minutes.
5 minutes,
Mr.
yeah,
Silk.
don't worry, I can talk quickly. But, I mean, to start with, as a member of the committee, I mean, I'm very proud of being in Sandwich, and also of Sandwich's history of helping refugees and Jewish refugees. So I'm very, very aware of that, and I personally would not want to see anything at all that would upset anybody. And I think the vast majority of reenactors would do that. Would do that. The vast majority of people are in that. Right, okay, I've been asked as a committee member of Sandwich Salutes the 40s to present our bid for funds from the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund to favour the event itself and to support the town. Sandwich Salutes the 40s is a fun, safe, informative and to risk tautology educational. The reenactors are exact in their depictions and are keen to educate what might be a routine key stage 1 and 3 subject talk in schools to something more real. The challenges of our parents, grandparents and further back become touchable, and we can salute all, both those who gave their lives and those who remain with us and those survived that are no longer with us. This balances the more sombre Remembrance Day that honours those who didn't come home. Considering the point of this bid, there is also the benefit of the town. Sandwich Salutes the 40s brought about 5,000 visitors to the town in 2023. This is based on a rough count during the event. Comparing events using click counts at St Peter's, the 5,000 seems realistic. The following table on the thing shows the visitors to St Peter's Church during 2023 events. Sandwich Salutes the 40s, nearly 3,000. Le Weekend, 2,600. Sandwich Festival, 2,000, just over 2,000. Folk and Ale, just over 1,500. And the 50s Festival, 397. These are people who actually went in at St Peter's. Using Dover District Council figures, a visitor represents on average £15 spend. Thus, considering just 3,000 recorded at St Peter's coming into Sandwich over the event, ignoring the knock-on impact of follow-up visits, this represents £45,000 to the town. If we consider 5,000 visitors, we estimate that they would be spending £75,000 in the town. Not bad for a £2,500 investment. It was noted by a visitor from DDC, Kelly Green, that during Sandwich Salutes the 40s, food and drink outlets were full to the point of not being able to get a table anywhere. This was not observed during other events. Sandwich Salutes the 40s has one single themed bar which sells approximately 5 kegs of beer, plus a themed naffy wagon selling tea and scones. This event is unique in it supports sandwich traders not competing with a wide variety of outlets in the town, hence their being full. I should emphasise that the numbers quoted should be read with context as to how all events bring added visitors to Sandwich and its traders, not just Sandwich Salutes the 40s. To assist and inform traders in the town, we've also produced and distributed an early version of our leaflet, which you have in front of you. Speaking to those that did open on Sunday and Monday last year, they noted that they were among the best trading days of the year. Further to the bid of 2,500, this year in particular, with the delay in grant funding, we have had to commit to running down our funds to the point of not being able to propose an event in 2025, which, if you remember, will be the 80th anniversary of the EE Day. Being able to plan ahead and book acts of competing events for around 2025, around the same dates, will be vital to passing on funds from year to year. With the importance of celebrating VE Day 80th year and what follows, we would also propose far more within the town, working towards an event that is far greater than a tiny group of volunteers can manage. The possibility of Sandwich Town Council partnering or even leading with a working group might be appropriate, celebrating more than just wartime needs. Certainly the impact and the role of Sandwich, the creation of the NHS, and much more that can be saluted down to the 40s, hopefully with an additional and early commitment to funding. In the meantime, we like to retain our position as the go-to town within the district for saluting the greatest generation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Sue. Thank you. Okay, that concludes our public participation item 6, and we move on to item number 7, which is a verbal report from our Dover District Councillors on matters relating entirely to Sandwich. Councillors Morehouse, could you please address the council with any updates that you may have?
Thank you, Mr. I'm aware of our long agenda, so how long have I got?
So, shall we say 3 minutes?
Right, I attended the full BDC meeting on Wednesday the 6th of March. The agenda item for the meeting was to vote on the proposed budget for 24-25, and along with the majority of councillors of all political persuasions, I voted in agreement with the corporate plan in November last year. My reason for doing so was in order to support the electorate, as the majority voted for change in May last year. That somewhat baffles me, therefore, that the one particular party voted against the budget. It's a bit like agreeing to buy a house and then refusing the mortgage to buy it with. Even though there are aspects of the budget I do not agree with, such as increasing council tax and parking charges, the procedure upon which the budget is voted upon does not facilitate the opportunity to vote against component parts of the budget. Councillors either vote for it in its entirety or they vote against it. On the subject of council tax, the 2.98% increase is identical to that which the Conservative administration implemented a year ago. I find the decision to increase charges in the town centre car parks by 20 pence per hour difficult to comprehend, considering the state of our economy and how smaller independent businesses such as those we have in Sandwich struggle as potential customers make their way to free parking facilities at out-of-town retail parks. It should be remembered that in 2022, the previous administration increased parking charges by 30 pence per hour. Clearly, the shadow cabinet at DDC cannot claim any moral high ground when it comes to increasing the cost of living. The DDC increase pales into insignificance when compared to our Police and Crime Commissioner, who's increased his allocation of the council tax by 5.3%. In monetary terms, he costs a significant amount of council taxpayers more than Dover District Council does. As a Band C owner, my contribution to DDC amounts to £190.56 per annum, whereas my contribution to the Police and Crime Commissioner totals £227.69 per annum. I'll go on to mention items of local concern that I'm dealing with at the moment. Firstly is flats in St Bart's Road, where a 92-year-old resident recently released from hospital is not totally confined to a wheelchair, but has significant mobility issues. There are no ramps in and out of the flat, There are no automatic doors. The pane of glass in the front of the property is the 1965 version of when the house was built. So building regs these days state that below 800 mil above ground level has to be toughened safety glass. Secondly, I'm dealing with issues at Montague Place where the trees that were planted as part of the planning agreement have not been maintained. And secondly, there are a small number of residents that are illegally using Black Lane to access St Bart's Road. Thirdly, I received a letter from my MP about parking in Hazelwood Meadow, which I'm dealing with at the moment. There is the calling applications to 12 Britannia Terrace and 6 St Peter Street, which I understand are going to go to a planning committee. On the latter, it was noted that there was a previous application put in that the planning committee at STC rejected or recommended refusal, but DDC have approved it. But I don't believe that we were told that that application had been approved. And lastly, members of the planning committee may remember residents of 95 St George's Road making representation here about a planning development for a large 4-bedroom house adjacent to their house, which was going to strip away a significant amount of ancient woodland and part of the nature corridor that exists throughout the centre of the town. I was pleased to speak at the planning committee on the 14th of March in support of their objection, and I'm pleased to say that the application was thrown out. I've got plenty of other things to talk about, but I think perhaps given the agenda that we've got tonight, it may be more prudent if I was to submit a more written detailed report.
Indeed. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Moorhouse. I'm sure the town clerk would welcome a written report that we can then circulate to the councillors. All these matters are really important, and so we'd be pleased to.
One other pertinent issue is King Street, and I'm afraid I cannot report on King Street because another councillor has crowned himself a single point of contact, and he should be here tonight updating you all on King Street. And the fact he's not here is a gross dereliction of duty, in my opinion. Thank you.
Item number 8 is a verbal report from our Kent County Councillor on matters directly relating to Sandwich. Councillor Chandler, would you like to address the council, please? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good evening, councillors. I too will be reasonably brief and can provide a more complex report in due course. I will just say before I start that listening to the speakers, the public speakers earlier on, it strikes me how very fortunate Sandwich is as a town to have so many activities, but also so many volunteers who contribute to those. And they're obviously all requesting funding. In times gone by, I have funded many of them through my members grant. Sadly, budgets being what they are these days, my members grant is significantly reduced. And I'm not able to do that with the freedom that I once had, but there is still a little bit to be had, but not until May because of the constraints we have around elections this year. There is always crowdfunding. KCC supports a crowdfunding platform. If anybody is interested in furthering that, then it is another opportunity to raise funds. I just wanted to briefly mention the items that we have out for consultation at the moment, which I'm sure many of the residents in Sandwich would be interested in. So we have a focus on early years, on early years education, supporting settings to embed inclusive practice, and on perinatal mental health and parent-infant strategy, and on a 5-year infant feeding strategy, all of which may well be of interest to families who have young children or those who might work in those sectors. We also have a consultation around adult social care charging, which is around changes we're making to social care charging around including high level of disability benefits in financial assessments and in self-funding arrangements. And again, there may be several residents for whom that is applicable. All of those can be found on the Let's Talk section of the Kent County Council website. Very briefly, there has been a lot of conversation, and I'm sure it will continue, about the state of our roads and about potholes. The additional funding that came from government, which is being applied to what we now call the pothole blitz. The spending has started this March. Additional contractors are being engaged or have been engaged, and that will hopefully continue through the better weather through the summer to remedy a lot of the problems that we have on our local roads. I'm not saying all of them, because we all know there is a backlog which is impossible to overcome at this point, but we are doing our best. The government have also given us certainty of funding, not enough, but certainty of funding over a number of years, which allows us to invest in equipment which will make road repairs both more cost effective, but also quicker, we hope. And finally, I just wanted to mention that councillors may have heard both the leader of KCC and Neil Baker, Cabinet Member for Highways, talking about the potential for delays when the new electronic entry system comes into place, currently scheduled for this October, which means that anybody crossing to Europe for the first time will have to enter biometric data actually at the port if that is their first journey. The comment made to me was that it might be better to fly for your first journey to Europe, but because the airports are geared up for it. But there are considerable problems with this, and we are doing two things. One, we're alerting government to the problems that already exist, because the Port of Dover is not cannot easily facilitate this currently. And the Strategic Resilience team are working with the DFT on the impact that it may have on the local roads, and that work is ongoing. And I know that that does impact our local roads here around Sandwich, or it can do, when the delays around Dover are such that traffic diverts whichever way it thinks is going to be more effective. And finally, sorry, there is a finally, King Street. Councillor Morehouse referred to King Street. Absolutely, when requested, I am accessing KCC Highways officers to try and both obtain information, but also assist in any way to both alleviate the pressures on the homeowner who is desperately trying to get their property repaired, but also the businesses in King Street who might be adversely affected. And I'm doing that within the context that he described.
Thank you very much for that. Are you prepared to take questions, Councillor Chalmers? Councillor Chuka?
A couple of observations. Firstly, on road repairs, could you pass back to highways officers that not perfect, but they pretty well do respond really well. I'm quite active in terms of reporting items, and sometimes it's very impressive, done within a matter of days. So always good to give praise back as well as complaints. King Street, an observation, not a question. It would have been much better if we'd done this properly and collectively. That's my observation. You will have your own observations. There are things, we are 4 weeks down the track. That street has had has not really had enough attention from us collectively as councillors. We could have done it better. It's an observation from my perspective. And then a question. At January's STC, I flagged up that there was a resident who wanted to have a meeting facilitated with Toby Butler. I followed that up with an email to you. So did the resident off the back of that. Not heard anything at all. So it'd be really good if I could have an update today. If not, one to follow would be appreciated.
Am I allowed to answer?
Indeed, please do, Councillor Chalmers.
In terms of King Street, I might agree with you, and perhaps in future we might find a better way. The businesses in King Street are quite determined in their approach to this is perhaps the best way of putting that. Toby Butler, yes, it reminds me that I have approached him a couple of times and haven't had a response. I will follow up.
Thank you very much for that. Oh, would you be prepared to take one last question? Councillor Pennington.
I was just wondering if you could give us an update on the situation with the bus stop and traffic going into Cattle Market. Visibility.
Regrettably, I can't, not because I'm unwilling, but because it is a DDC issue. As far as I am aware, and I haven't heard that DDC have approached Kent Highways on this particular issue. However, if somebody would like to tell me how Kent Highways are currently not responding, then I'm happy to follow that up.
That's super, thank you for that. Are you prepared for one more question?
I think she's going to tell me how Kent Highways...
Oh, super. Please address
I was going to tell you that Kent Highways sent to the council a document about reorganising the yellow lines and so on in what they called New Street, but what they actually meant was the Cattle Market. And 3 councillors, myself, Councillor Black and Councillor Ripley, wrote a lengthy report to KCC, and their response was discussed at, I think, the last town council meeting, or we had an extraordinary council meeting in order to discuss their response, and found it completely inadequate. They had asked us if we wished to withdraw our thoughts about their rearrangements, and we decided, I think unanimously, not to withdraw, so they were, I presume, sent back our comments. I noticed that there are now 2 extra little bits of double line on the pavements along the Cattle Market on the Carpenter's side, and I suspect that's all that they're going to do. One of the issues that we raised at the extraordinary meeting was that KCC Highways seem to think that if they paint extra double lines or put little yellow flashes of paint on the pavement, that somehow or other this will prevent people from parking there. Well, it certainly doesn't. I myself was caught up in a jam quite recently because people were parked on those double yellow lines.
If I may stop you, Councillor.
And we did say that KCC needs to talk to DDC because DDC enforces parking regulations.
Exactly, yeah.
And we've no idea what's going on. Meantime, buses park on the corner and people get take serious risks crossing the road.
Okay, so the 2 yellow lines that you're describing. So there was a traffic regulation order which was out for consultation, which consulted, as it has to, on the changes to parking regulations. The 2 short yellow lines that you're describing, which go across the pavement, are actually the recognised and legal markings which determine that it is a no parking, no stopping zone for anybody. So that includes those who would normally be able to stop on double yellow lines, such as disabled drivers or delivering. That is the demarcation that is legally recognised for that. No, I accept that point, and I'm sure that your district council colleague, both of them, in fact, would be able to take up this issue with Dover District Council parking, because actually enforcement of that should be done in line with the legal definition of that particular parking restriction. So
that's correct.
That is what it was intended for. My view originally, my personal view originally, which is not a professional highways one, was that people would be far more likely to recognise the red line that is utilised, and I was advised that that is only utilised in London and we couldn't use it here. But that that is the purpose of it, and I'm sure that we can talk to district council colleagues who will urge district council enforcement officers to do something about that.
That's super. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Chandler. That's very kind of you. Thank you. And item number 9 is report from local police representatives and community wardens for Sandwich, and this is to receive reports from local police representative or community warden Peter Gill, if possible. We know Peter Gill has given his apologies. I believe we've got PC Lauren Eric Jackson. Would you like to come up and address the council, please? Are you okay being filmed? Is that okay?
Is
Or would you
stand
prefer?
here in the face?
Yes,
Is that
please.
okay?
If you could address the council.
Yeah, of course. Hello, everybody. I just wanted to sort of go over the last few months, not just March. So just provide you with some statistics of sort of calls coming into us and crimes coming in. So for January, if I go back a couple of months now, so in January we had a total of 43 crime reports that have been recorded, and of those 32 were victim based, so they relate to things where a particular person has been a victim of a crime, and 11 of those relate to crimes against society, so drug offences and things like that. So and then in the next month, for February, there was 30 recorded crimes in total, and again 25 of those were victim based, and 5 were against the society. Unfortunately, the database that I get that information from, it hasn't got a breakdown for March, but with that in mind, the total, I am able to get the total number of crimes, which is 45 for this month so far. So I know we haven't reached the end of the month just yet, but so on the whole, it's sort of averaging around between 40 and 50 sort of each month. So if you compare that to my counterparts that are working in the Dover Town Centre, they have an extremely a large amount of that, more than we do in the town, thankfully, for Sandwich. But in terms of calls that come in, so call demand from January, so there was 126 calls in January to the Sandwich district, and 25 of those were immediate calls. In February, 121 calls in total with 27 immediates, and in March, so for this month, we've had 112 calls in total with 34 of those being immediate calls. I know I'm sort of short on time, so I won't go over my previous newsletters that I'd printed out to sort of go through with you in case you haven't had a copy of those. But for this month, the activities that I have been involved in, so from February the 28th until the March the 10th, there was an initiative that we were actioning and targeting mobile phone use whilst people are driving. During that time frame, I work quite closely with PC Bowler. I don't know whether you've seen me walking around with him, but he also he sort of covers the rural villages, and we overlap quite a lot, and so we work together. Sorry, that's okay. Update on my phone. No, that's okay. So we work quite closely together. Between the two of us over that time frame, we issued 18 tours in total. So we issued them for, it wasn't just mobile phones, because as you can imagine, once we stop a vehicle for that offence, then it can sometimes lead to other things. So it resulted in tickets being issued for mobile phone use, defective tyres, speeding, no insurance, and also some parking offences where they've parked on zigzag lines and things like that. So we did get sort of yeah, I think we achieved quite well in that time, because obviously we've got our other activities that we've got going on as well, so we did sort of give a lot of our time to that. At the end of this week is sort of Spiking Awareness Week, so I've been attending some of the local public houses and just giving them new packs of posters that they can hand out and put up in their toilets and just on the walls for people to be aware of, to raise awareness for spiking and making sure that people are aware of that. I'm not saying that that is an issue, please don't be concerned or worried about that, but it's just raising awareness so that people can be careful, more knowledge is power, isn't it? So it's better to be aware of it and conscious of it and protect yourself from it. And then also drink driving as well. There was a lot of posters in there just to obviously remind people of the consequences if they were to decide to have a drink and then drive and they're driving over the legal limit. I don't know whether it's been brought to any of your attention, but there is an ongoing issue with antisocial behaviour where youths are using the train network and travelling into Sandwich and causing some disruption. On my previous newsletter from February, I explained about a day of action that we had, where we did a joint partnership working with colleagues from Margate and also with BTP, and we basically targeted the people that we thought were causing the problem, and that there were some good results as a result of that, and there is going to be another initiative going forward that's going to be planned. But other things that we've been doing is the local schools officer, who is PC Ruddock, he has a very good working relationship with the schools, and he has been doing engagement sessions with them. And there has been some ABAs, so behavioural agreements with children that are under 16. They've been issued those with parents as well, so they're aware of them. And also a community protection notice has been issued, which we are able to enforce that, and the person that has been issued that has been arrested as a result of not complying with those conditions. And the neighbourhood task force, so they work within the community safety unit alongside us. They're in our department and we have a very close working relationship with them. They've also been patrolling Sandwich. They did some at the weekend where they were over here quite a lot, and they were actually using the train network to travel around as well to try and sort of intercept the people that are causing us problems. But this weekend they decided not to come over here, unfortunately. So there has been a lot of stop searches, arrests and engagement. So if you do have any residents that are coming to you with these issues, we are looking at it, we are aware of it, and we are trying our best to try and educate and prevent as well any further incidents. But that is everything.
Thank you very much for that report. Can I suggest, the only trouble is we're a bit tight on time, could I suggest that any questions are sent to the town clerk and then forwarded to our police officer, please? If that's on, so we can move on for that. Is that okay?
Of course it is, yes.
Thank you very much
No
for
problem.
that.
Thank you
And
very
thank
much
you
for
for
that.
your report this evening. That's very kind of you. Okay, item number 10 is updates from councillors, and this is to receive and note verbal updates from councillors on meetings that they have attended as nominated representatives of the council. Do we have any updates from any councillors at all? Oh, Councillor Black.
Yes, I've been to both Worth and Woodensbrook Parish Councils about if there's any interest in community bus service. One was interested, one was not. And we've also had 2 more sessions with Network Rail about level crossings at Age Concern and the library.
Super, thank you very much for that, Councillor Black. Councillor Marie.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, I attended the Dover District Neighbourhood Watch committee meeting last Wednesday in Eastry. Just to point out that there's been a few, if anyone has them in their homes and around the rural areas, heating oil drums. There's been a lot of amount of thefts that have been taking place from there, so there's been an outcry to make sure that people check them to make sure they're safe and secured. Also, there will be new neighbourhood watch signs going around the town for Sandwich, because there isn't any. If anyone would like any in their town, in their roads, please send an email. Also looking for coordinators for their roads, so any roads in the town that they wish for their coordinators to be for the neighbourhood watch, then please again email me and it will be passed on to the committee for a review.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Marie. I had Councillor Tuker next and then Councillor Ripley, sorry.
Just 2 activities to report on. First of all, I attended a start-up meeting with DDC officers from Parks and Open Spaces on the Key Play Park. Really good to see that they want to collaborate with Sandwich Town Council, and very positive plans looking forward in terms of this project. So, just a very brief summary of the high level milestones which are indicative at the moment and dependent on all the funding being secured. But at the moment it's looking that there will be a consultation during May of this year. This will include an online and physical survey, engagement with schools, and 1 or 2 days down at the park itself. Then tenders will be invited during June and July, and an award made in September to October. The aim is to start construction in spring of next year, with completion of the project estimated to be March next year. I'll keep the Town Council updated on the project progress. There will be a couple of pre-meetings arranged with the Town Clerk at key points of the life cycle of the project. And that's where we are at the moment with that particular project, but at least we've now got a date that we're focused on in terms of delivering this as an outcome.
Indeed, thank you.
The second thing I was just going to mention is that in the background since the start of this year, I've been pursuing a return to Sandwich of activities and services that are provided by Dover, Deal and Sandwich Children's Centres. I'd realised that they put a lot of information out on Facebook and they've got Sandwich in their title, but they haven't been to Sandwich since pre-COVID. So I made contact with KCC officers, the KCC individuals who run this scheme, and they do a lot of activities, none of them in Sandwich unfortunately. Really keen to engage and get into Sandwich. Want to recognise that the Jubilee Centre stepped up in terms of their premises, and with my involvement we had a meeting, Councillor Tomrins was at that meeting, Councillor Gray as well, and a small outcome from that is that we actually have got a workshop called Crafternoon taking place in April. So they are returning to Sandwich. This is the first time for 4 to 5 years, and they are keen to try and get permanent activities up and running in Sandwich, but it's very much dependent on funding from KCC, etc, etc. But at least we've got a start here, with the Jubilee Centre being their prime site for delivering their activities and services.
Thank you very much for those updates. And Councillor Ripley, could I ask you to...
You can. Very, very briefly, I attend the Sandwich in Bloom meetings. I have to say I don't do any of the digging or planting or anything like that. But, I just think we need to acknowledge the fantastic work that Sandwich in Bloom do. When you walk around the town, and then it looks glorious. So that's them, and also Gaze and Salts. Which I go to now and is doing incredibly well, I think.
Excellent.
Just briefly, this is a little bit of an aside, regarding the refurbishment of the Bulwark's play area, I saw something on the TV the other day about handicapped children, and they showed a little boy in a wheelchair sitting in the middle of a roundabout specifically designed that would take a wheelchair in the middle of it, and I wondered if that's something that we could consider for here. I'm sure it would cost a fortune, but it just would seem a nice thing to do.
Indeed, that is nice. Thank you very much on that. So, well, Councillor Marine, just
quickly,
briefly.
I'm sure Councillor Ripley forgot to mention, but I'll mention it anyway. Gaze and Salts on Saturday, this Saturday coming, Easter Saturday, there is a Easter egg hunt for children and adults to walk around the reserve and do an Easter egg hunt. All proceeds made available will go towards Gaze and Salts for the upkeep of the reserve.
Thank you very much for that.
The council will.
Oh, big one. Councillor Fortescue. Councillor Fortescue.
Councillor Franklin and I attended a meeting of the Port and Paving Commission last Thursday afternoon, and some of the points raised. Jet ski incidents, that's where people on jet skis travel at dangerously high speeds on the river. There have been 3 incidents and warnings have been given. Beavers have been more active with obvious consequences on the river. The cables, if you remember, there are 2 cables on the bed of the River Stour near Sandwich, and one of the cables is now going to be removed. That's the cable which controls the traffic lights on the bridge over the Stour. Boys are always going missing, and
Scouting for boys.
2 boys have gone missing, navigation boys. And apparently they cost £1,300 to replace, so it's not entirely a joking matter. Then the Stoner Cut. Because there's been so much rain recently, it's been much in use. And what it does, it carries silt down the Stoner Cut and then deposits it where the Stoner Cut rejoins the river. And that is causing problems. But it also, because the current is so fast, it also excavates some of the silt there. And apparently there's a sunken e-boat.
That's right.
And there's a concern that it might be exposed, or part of the wreck might be exposed, and that might be a navigation to shipping. Then the inevitable problem about collecting harbour dues. Commercial users of the river have to pay £300 a year. 4 commercial users have not paid their £300 for this financial year that's coming to an end. And the Portland Haven Commission decided that they would be sent a warning letter, and if after 28 days they hadn't paid up, debt collectors would be called in. Now, I've been asked by Sandwich residents about 2 matters: 1, pollution, and 2, the number of boats on the stretch of the river for which the Portland Haven Commission is responsible. Apparently the water is tested for pollution both by Pfizer's, which as you know still has a small plant on Discovery Park, and by the Environment Agency. And the current understanding is that the main polluter is, surprise, surprise, Southern Water. As regards the number of boats, I've been told, contrary to what many people believe, that the number hasn't actually increased very much over the last year. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report, Councillor Fortescue. And then briefly, Councillor Franklin.
Briefly? Oh.
Not to repeat anything that Councillor Fortescue's told us.
Well, I was going to say there's 200 pair of beavers, but I won't repeat it. I attended the AGM of the White Mill on the 15th of March. The renovations are progressing well. The cap is now back on, it rotates freely. But apparently, where it's been stuck for so long, they've turned it and they've damaged a thing called a worm drive, which is a piece of beach which is so heavy, it's about 12 foot long by about 4 foot wide, so it weighs about half a tonne or more. So that is the reason they need to get the crane in. So we do need to, with this grant, I mean, it hasn't worked for about nearly 100 years, I think, powered by wind, which is like a petrol engine. But we do want to see the sweeps going round, don't we, and milling down the traditional way. So
of course.
It's all looking positive.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for that report on that. That's very kind of you. Thank you. And then item number 11 is financial information. And this is to receive and note the Sandwich Town Council Statement of Accounts of the 29th of February 2024. And this is income and expenditure and budget. And this is attachment number 3. Did we have any questions on this? If we do not, could I perhaps ask for a proposer? Thank you very much, Councillor Marie, and a seconder for the accounts. And that's Councillor Tuke that is seconding that. All those in favour of the accounts, could you please signify with your appropriate cards? Okay. Councillor Penny.
Yes,
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. And that item's been carried. Thank you very much on that. Item number 12 is representation on outside bodies. Following the resignation of 2 town councillors from their appropriate positions on 2 separate outside bodies, members are now invited to nominate 2 replacement representatives. Councillor Gray stood down from the Gaze and Salts Nature Reserve, and Councillor Marie has stood down from the town team. The council are to receive a report from the town clerk and a decision will be required on this. This is attachment number 4. Did you wish to speak, town clerk?
No, that's absolutely fine. I think it's quite self-explanatory from what you've said. So really it is asking the council, obviously the outside body is agreed again after the May meeting, but this is just if council want to agree the representatives to be added for the next couple of months. Thank you.
Councillor Chuka, would you like to speak?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Ripley for the town team. She doesn't know that I was going to nominate her.
Oh,
I hope she's accepting.
can I ask if Councillor Ripley would like to be nominated?
Yes, I go to every meeting anyway, so I'm happy to take on that.
Oh, that's superb. And could I have a second of Councillor Ripley? So that's nominated by Councillor Chuka and seconded by Councillor Morehouse. All those in favour of Councillor Ripley being on the town team? Thank you, chaps. Okay. And thank you for that, Councillor Chuka. That's well volunteered. And then also we have the vacancy on Gaze and Salts. Did we have anybody that wished to volunteer for the Gaze and Salts Nature Reserve at all? Councillor Murray?
Well, the person might refuse, but the person was the Gaze and Salts secretary, who's done a fantastic work trying to gain the charity status that the Gaze and Salts had. Sadly, due to conflicts, as we say, he resigned. However, that conflict has now been removed from Gaze and Salts.
Indeed.
So I would like to nominate, if he's accepted, is Councillor Wiles as STC rep for Gaze and Salts Nature Reserve.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wiles, could you tell us if you would like to accept that nomination?
I would like to not accept that nomination.
Okay, thank you. Could you record that?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So if we have no further nominations, big pun.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Pennington if he'd be interested in doing it.
Yes, I'd be glad to do that.
Oh, superb. Oh, excellent. Well, that's excellent news. So, and so that was nominated by Councillor Chuka and seconded by Councillor Anderson. Councillor Anderson seconded that. All those in favour of Councillor Pennington on to the Gaze and Salts? That's carried. Thank you very much. Well done. Excellent. You can see it's a volunteering type evening now. So that takes us on to item number 13 and Fill In Friday initiative. Councillor Chuka is to share a report with members that proposes an initiative for councillors to consider temporary cover for the reception visitor information centre in the Guildhall. This would be on a voluntary basis and with direction, under direction from the town clerk. This is attachment number 5. Could I just ask that we don't go into the details like what colour pencils we have or do we get access to the internet or things like that? Could we just look at this in the round, in the overall, is it a good idea and would we like to go ahead with it? Councillor Chuka, did you want to talk?
Just very briefly, and you've sort of given a need to say you, so this is about principal agreement that those councillors that are interested and available, not all are available, it's just to fill in on Fridays. The advantage of doing it, having done it for a number of weeks, and I remember anyone that did it, is it gives an opportunity to engage with both visitors and also residents and actually understand some of the problems that they experience and how we can help them and identify opportunities. It also enables us to have a closer relationship with our council staff because they work in and around us and it's just an easy way to engage with them. So those that don't want to do it, that's fine. In principle, it's a reasonable way of spending some time in the building.
Indeed, thank you very much for that, Councillor Chuka. And can I just mention before I take any questions that this would be from 10 AM till 1 PM and obviously a rota would be set up So we wouldn't be expecting the same people to do it over and over again. There would be a rota. I believe Councillor Anderson first and then Councillor.
I'm just going to say I very strongly support this, and I think I certainly would enjoy volunteering to help out on Fridays. But I was struck at the weekend when I encountered somebody who had a genuine reason for wanting to talk to somebody in the Guildhall on Saturday, that we do have an additional problem of the weekend when the Guildhall is closed, and I would like us to consider very seriously as to how we move that on so that we do have people in the Guildhall on Saturdays and Sundays.
Indeed. Well, perhaps we can look at sit-in Saturdays or something in future. But thank you for that option. We will put that. We will make a note of that and follow up on that. Councillor Marie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm more than happy to put my name forward to do it, however work permitting. So obviously I work full time as yourself does as well. So I can give the town clerk some reasonable time frames if I can. But I'm more than happy to put.
That's excellent there. And Councillor Tomlins.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask. I'm willing to. But would it need any degree of training or preparation? Because the only anxiety would be that you might be addressing things that you didn't really know where to start with.
Town clerk.
So you would not be expected to do anything that was beyond your comfort zone. There will be officers on site as well, so it will never be left to your own devices. Literally, when Councillor Suka did it, if there was an issue, tap on the door. One of us is around and we can assist. So it's not a problem at all. You don't need to look at the laptop, so you're not looking at any sensitive information. You're not handling the telephone calls either. It is purely the meet and greet. So if you know Sandwich well, you've got a head start on me because I don't know it as well as those that are living here. So, you know, that's what it is. And it's spending the time to speak to people, because when we're faced with, you know, lots of complex things we're trying to juggle, giving time to people, it might be 10, 15, 20 minutes sometimes, that's really precious. And actually, if you could do that as a council, that would be a huge support.
I think it's a great idea.
And of course, the upside of the whole scheme would that it would actually relieve the Guildhall staff of that function, so that we would have the Guildhall staff could then concentrate and get on with other work as well. So it will help to assist the staff as well. So could I have a proposer and seconder for this? So.
Well, I second.
Oh, you seconded it. Oh, sorry, and Councillor Tuker's proposing it. And all those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And that item is passed. Thank you for that. And item number 14 is the IT support arrangements and digital communications. Members are to receive a report from Councillor Tuker that seeks to formalise the closure of the IT and digital communications working group, and to seek a debate with decision from members on the potential replacement of existing devices used by councillors, and a decision is required on this, and this is attachment number 6. I would like to actually go first, and actually because I work in IT, and I want to actually address Councillor Tuker about this. The 2 quotations we've got, with those quotations, did we have any option to what we could specify, or were these the options that Cloudy IT came forward with?
Yes, so the request made to Cloudy IT was based on their knowledge as a provider to many councils, was what would be their suggested solutions. So these were their top 2 that they proposed. In terms of why the iPad is chosen above the other from their perspective, but also understanding their perspective, it's a lot easier for them to deal with those devices remotely. So it's cheaper for us as a council, because the other option that's put forward would need more time in terms of support. The other thing is, and it's a key consideration, is that those of us that use 2-factor authentication on our own devices, that, and I have asked them, can still run in parallel. So if somebody doesn't want to have the iPad, they don't need to. Secondly, if they want the iPad just for meetings, they can do that, but they can still run their business as well on their own device using two-factor authentication.
Thank you for that. And just to continue, the reason why I asked that question, because quite a large number of commercial companies, and in fact the company that I actually belong to, Monday to Friday, we'll use something called Chromebooks. And the thing is with Chromebooks, I've done a bit of research into this, actually quite a lot of research into it, and the two options that have been given, the iPad I would say is the better of the two options. The second option is, which was the, just looking that up for a second one, was the Microsoft Surface Go 3 actually gets severe slatings in reviews, IT reviews. So, and I could expand on that at a later stage, but particularly with battery power and also performance for those issues there. What I'm suggesting, these items are coming out at quite a large amount per item. Chromebooks you can get commercially from £199. They run Microsoft Office. You can have two-factor authentication on it, and I'm just putting forward as my personal proposal, I'm a councillor saying this now, not the mayor, that I would like, unless there's any other options here, to go back to Cloudy IT and ask them, and we could shave off a third of the cost of the hardware just by looking at Chromebooks. And the Chromebooks are comparable to both the other devices into functionality, and in fact they have, the Chromebooks have greater memory power and performance, RAM and performance there. So they also have, they would have the largest screen, because the other two, the screens are quite small. So a Chromebook, you're looking at nearly a 12-inch screen size. So Councillor Tuka.
So what I would suggest is we do defer it, because it's not just for cost. There may well be technical issues that in the end would cost us more as a council in terms of support.
Indeed.
So why don't we defer it until the next STC meeting, gives an opportunity to go back to Cloudy IT to give you technical assessment from their service perspective of supporting the Chromebooks.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That's very good. Councillor Black, did you?
Yes, before we defer that, I've got 3 points. First of all, we were told about a glitch with the present system about having to individually upload files to each individual account. Was that unknown? And secondly, has that now been solved? Because obviously, if you're having to sit, or rather stand, and do it for each individual account, that does seem perverse.
It is, that is most unusual. I'll have to ask the town clerk about this.
So the issue I think Councillor Back's referring to is for the agenda, where I have to do each individual report at the moment as a PDF individually, and I can't scan it on the photocopier. That's to meet the accessibility regulations for the website. So it's not that there's a particular issue with doing that. It just obviously takes a bit more time. But what I don't have at the moment is Adobe Pro. So if the officers had Adobe Pro, which we don't currently have, I think that can get around the problem. So I'm looking into that.
Because obviously you're busy people, and it does seem a bit of a waste of your time.
Yeah, I don't, that wasn't Cloudy or Aubergine's problem. It's because we don't have the software currently to facilitate doing Adobe in large quantities. So that's something I'm looking into.
And also with, sorry to interrupt, but also I did speak with the town clerk about this. The software that we require can be purchased under her delegated authority, so it won't have to be brought back to the council here. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Black.
2 other points,
Oh,
please.
2 other, okay.
Yes, I said 3.
Could I just respond to that?
I guess
yes,
if that's
to
okay,
say,
Councillor Black.
I did investigate it once it became known as a problem with in relation to Aubergine supporting a number of councils. And I investigate a number of the council sites that they are supporting, and some councils do actually have all the documents as one run, one series. So there is a solution out there, definitely.
Yeah.
It's just tapping into it and using it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Black, would
Yes,
you like to resume?
The second thing is to, in the future, full implementation of recording and streaming of all council meetings. This is something that's been ongoing for a while. I appreciate it takes a bit of time to get it sorted and so. Do we have even an outline date when this is going to happen? Because all thanks to Christina for her hard work, but we should be automating this, surely.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
Is there a date?
I'll get an answer from you on that. So, is it yourself,
So,
Councillor Mann?
Basically, it is one of those priorities, I'm sorry to say, has slid. I've delivered the new website, I've delivered the IT migration, I've done the recruitment drive, all the things I've delivered, and this is one of those that hasn't been at the top of the priorities. I need to get through this month, as I explained last month. There are a lot of people on annual leave at the moment. There is no possibility I can get this done by the end of this month. It will be something I'll be looking at in April.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Town
The
Clerk.
third
And your
point
first
is,
point?
with any equipment that we buy, whatever it is, will we include, as a matter of standard approach, PDF, annotator and reader? Because quite frankly, one of the easiest ways to work is when you get all of the information, is to sit down with a PDF reader and annotator, and you can, others can see I've got, comments written on here, you can alter things, you can highlight things. Why are we not doing that? If we are going to do that, it would be very useful to know that we can, because it's a bit of a pain having to convert it to something else and then.
I agree with you fully, and thank you for raising that. I think, Councillor Black, that is something that we could ask for when we decide what device we're having. We could ask for that software to be accessible.
Any device will have it.
Indeed, it will do, as I know. Yeah, and as you say, it's the specification of what hardware we want on there. So if I go back to Councillor Chuka, so I believe that came from you. Based on the suggestion I said that we should look at other devices. Could you just repeat your proposal?
So there's two elements here, because there is the working group element of the report. I'm seeking formal closure of that. All elements of that have been delivered, including a technical solution to enable recording and live streaming.
Thank you for
that. So that's separate from procurement activity that we need to undertake. I'm proposing that between myself and the Town Clerk, we will go back to Cloudy IT to explore the Chromebook solution as an alternative and get their analysis.
Thank you very much
bring
for
back
that.
to the next Town Council meeting.
Oh, that's good. And
And
could I?
PDFs.
Are you seconding that? Are you?
Oh no, just expand on the recording of the meetings.
Oh,
Very
did you want
briefly.
to stand and give a?
Yes, very briefly on the recording of the meetings. What we have learnt is essentially at the moment you need somebody who is pretty dedicated, as Christina is, going for a strictly technical solution where you just come in, plonk it down and work it. We're not there. We can spend our way into it, but it's finding an affordable solution that means the Town Clerk can plonk it down, it all works, which we're not quite there yet.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Mallet. Could I have a seconder for Councillor Chuka's proposal, please?
Which one? Is it the first one or the second one or both?
Oh, both on block. So both of those on block. So I think Councillor Morehouse put his up first. So Councillor Morehouse is second. So both the proposals that Councillor Chuka mentioned, if you're unhappy with one of them, then obviously you can say so. But I would go on block on this. So all those in favour of that, please show. Okay. Yeah. No abstentions. Thank you very much. That is carried. Thank you. And item number 15 is frequency of meetings for Sandwich Town Council, and the Town Clerk is to provide the report to members that proposes that the frequency of meetings for Sandwich Town Council be reduced to bi-monthly for full council, with further delegation shared to committees. The proposal includes the scheduled meetings for Sandwich Town Council committees for 2024 and 25. This is attachments 7A and 7B, and a decision is required on this. I believe Councillor Chuka may have something to raise on this matter.
Yeah, I wanted to put forward a counter proposal. Apologies if I have to go through a bit of detail, but I think it's really important that we don't jump from one issue into another issue. So the principle of reducing meetings, I completely support that. But we need to do it in a sensible manner. We should not lead to exposure of the council for a series of unintended consequences. I understand the key driver is to reduce the amount of administration time required to support meetings and also the amount of meetings we have to attend. It's a reasonable request, but simply reducing the number of meetings does not mean the work of the council goes away, certainly not at the moment. There are other ways this pressure can be reduced, and some of those ways are already in train. So, for example, we had an appointment of an asset officer identified. It's unfortunate that we have not come back to look at that at the HR committee level, because we have lost 3 months since the previous candidates filling the post didn't happen. That's one thing. Also, towards the end of last year, we agreed to the purchase of a financial accounting package that would free up 20% of the finance officer's time. Is this being realised yet? I don't need the answer, I'm just saying it's another solution. We've also recruited 2 further staff into the office team. Is this helping, or when will it start to help managing the workload? So we should also look at how efficient each meeting is run. There are ways in which we can make meetings run more efficiently. Taking that all into account, moving the town council meeting to every second month is not the right way to go in my view. It is the top of our pyramid. It is the escalation route if meetings below it get cancelled. We had 2 meetings cancelled in the last couple of months, the Finance and General Purposes Committee, the Heritage and Townscape Committee. If we don't have a route upwards, then any decisions that might need to be taken in those meetings have nowhere to go to. The other thing is, the Finance and General Purposes Committee already has 32 responsibilities listed. If we move down more delegations into that meeting, what it means, a number of people in this room will not be part of the meeting that will be the core meeting for this council. I don't think that's acceptable. Also, STC is where councillors from the KCC and Dover come along to give us updates. Are we saying that actually only having updates every second month is the right way forward? I don't believe so. So, my proposal is we retain the town council meeting as a monthly meeting. The key thing that should happen is decoupling the Tollbridge Fund event from that same evening. My proposal is to move it quarterly, so long as the delegated financial authorities are taken down to the Finance and General the Tollbridge Fund Finance Committee, so that we have that gap bridged. I agree that the Heritage and Townscape meeting should go to bi-monthly meetings, and then everything else that's in that report I agree should continue. Are you okay? Yeah. Would you like to leave? Yes, so the other recommendations, I fully support human resources to quarterly, planning still every month, the Monks Wall Nature Reserve quarterly, as stated in the report. But the one key thing I think for the moment is that town council should continue to meet, and that's evidenced by the fact that the town clerk has actually had to build into next year, the first 3 months, the town council meeting happening, because the business demands it. So that would be my proposal, and that during 24-25 we see if we have the opportunity for 25-26 to review the frequency of the town council meetings.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So, Councillor Marie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very happy Councillor Duke said that, because I actually agree with that. It's a good idea. However, I don't agree with the quarterly Tollbridge Fund meeting. I think it should be a separate meeting monthly, because we have funding coming in from all different people, and also we have things we need to pay for, things we need to pay for in emergency. And I don't think giving someone delegated powers to pay for things is right. I think if it comes out of the Tollbridge Fund, it needs to be a committee decision, and this needs to be done monthly. But I'm happy to second that if the amendment is changed for the STBF meetings to have monthly separately.
Separate from the town council meetings. Councillor Anderson?
Yes, I agree with the spirit of what Councillor Shuker has said. I do think the town council should meet on a monthly basis. I also think that Heritage and Townscape should meet on a bi-monthly basis. As chair currently, I feel that would make sense of the amount of business that we have. The one thing that really worries me about that is that we tend to get consultations sprung us, and they're totally unpredictable. And I suspect that if we decide for Heritage and Townscape to meet bi-monthly, that we will have to hold the odd extraordinary meeting at short notice to deal with consultations. So that's what I would expect to happen, and for us to just grin and bear it when it happens. As far as the Tollbridge Fund is concerned, the Tollbridge Fund is basically a grant-giving body. It also runs the Guildhall, or partially funds the Guildhall. But leaving the Guildhall side of it, a grant-giving body, the ones that I've been involved with as a trustee, and I have been involved with 2 or 3, always have, they commonly have twice yearly meetings, or at most meet quarterly, and they have deadlines for grant applications, and organisations that seek grants work towards those deadlines. That's what one's used to, and currently I'm writing an application for the Jubilee Centre. Of course, there's a deadline.
Yes.
And you can't say, oh well, I won't submit it this month, I'll put it in the following month. You just have to work to those deadlines, and that's the realistic way that charities operate, and I suspect, and I suggest that that's what we do.
Thank you very much. I think Councillor Pennington was next, and then Councillor Franklin.
I agree that there are a variety of ways in which we can make the operation of this town council more efficient. I think the primary task should be to look at delegations of committees and ensure that the committees are delivering to full council where necessary proposals that have been fully researched, and that they have ability within their own powers of delegation to take things forward. The second is I fully believe that the Tollbridge Fund just needs a complete review. I think that even with the present system, which I think leaves a lot to be desired, but at least we could maybe firstly introduce the kind of deadline system which Councillor Ungerson mentioned, and secondly that individual councillors could be asked to look at, examine specific proposals, so that they're not thrown into a void, but that a particular councillor could present a proposal.
Indeed, thank you very much for that, Councillor. Councillor Franklin, and then Councillor Wiles, and then we'll go to the proposal. Thank you.
Yeah, when I first came on the Sandwich Town Councils, we had 24 meetings a year. We had fortnightly, first Monday of the month and the third Monday. I think we must go down to a monthly meeting of the Town Council, and I agree with Councillor Super. But I also agree with Councillor Dean about the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund, because it doesn't only do grants, does it? It pays salaries. And I think the salaries, the money should be done by the full council, it should be done by a committee.
Yeah.
So I think at the present time, perhaps if we can separate the Tollbridge from the Town Council, that'd be totally different if they're only doing grants. But I think at the present time, we should keep the Tollbridge more monthly for the salaries, until we get a new, perhaps, the new wage system in place. But I was going to just say what I'd like to know is why has the planning committee switched from a Wednesday to a Monday, and the Heritage Townscape Committee and the Finance and General Purposes also changed from Monday to a Wednesday. We've always had the most important committee meetings held on a Monday. There was no quarterly meetings on the list. August is missing, and this is a quarterly meeting. So how can you miss a quarterly meeting? Because we can't go. I know it's very awkward August with holidays, but can you imagine going 2 months to September? It just people bogged down, wouldn't we? I think we do need, even as a slimmed down quarterly meeting, we do need an August meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And finally, Councillor Wiles.
Yeah, I think for me the key thing is what are we here for? We're not here to be a talking shop. We're here to provide services out there, which we're not really doing at the moment. There are certain things we're doing, but by and large, most residents in Sandwich see very little outputs for what we do. We have too many meetings. I think we all agree on that. The town clerk and her staff, well, the town clerk herself is spending 50% of her time on servicing these meetings. That's just not viable in the long term. So I think the absolute priority is to separate the Tollbridge Fund from this meeting.
Yeah.
We're going to be here till midnight at this rate. It's just not sensible for any of us. The Tollbridge Fund, yes, I agree, it has to do more than just grants, but it looks after the investment. But there must be a way by which we say the Tollbridge Fund should only meet 3 or 4 times a year, and other issues can be delegated to STC. We should have a grant window for applications, so that we say the applications are open in January, and closed at the end of January, they're open in August, and then we deal with applications twice a year. We obviously need a much more sensible vetting process for applications. We've had 2 recent committees cancelled due to various reasons. The committees are not really working. We're getting too much on this agenda. The committees should be the place where the real legwork takes place, and that's not really happening at the moment. In terms of reference for finance, have a whole list of things which we're not really addressing. They're coming straight to this meeting. So I think we do need to, I'm open for ideas about how we do this, but we do need to reduce the number of meetings. The biggest priority is to separate Tollbridge Fund from this meeting.
Indeed, thank you. So going back to Councillor Chuka, there seems to be a theme that to separate the Tollbridge Fund from the Town Council meetings, but obviously your recommendation was quarterly, and there's been several other recommendations to have them monthly. Would you consider amending your proposal to still having them monthly but separate from the Tollbridge Town Council?
My proposal was that the authorities that would sit with the Tollbridge Fund would be delegated down to the Tollbridge Fund Finance Committee. I would be reluctant to go to I would be reluctant not to go to quarterly, because if the driver is to reduce the number of meetings, and the main purpose of that particular meeting is about the funds alongside the payment of staff, I think it should go quarterly, and I'd like to stick with that.
Okay.
And if my proposal fails, it fails.
Okay, thank you very much. Very briefly, Councillor.
Yeah, just quickly, Mr. Mayor, can I just point out when the Sandwich Masters majority came in the beginning of 2022, all the committees were then ceased, and there was 3 committees made, which is fine. I get that. And all delegated powers were taken away from the said committees and given back to full council and to the Tollbridge Fund. I don't think it's appropriate for them to go back on their word and change that for us to go to quarterly and give delegated powers to Finance and General Purposes Committee for the finances and the Tollbridge Fund. I do still feel it should be full committees and full council that take the decisions regarding the Tollbridge Fund and the Sandwich Town Council.
Thank you for that. So do we have a seconder? We've got a proposal on the floor. Do we have a second? We're really running out of time. We're running out of time. I will have to. You're seconding it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Just be clear on the proposal, please, Mr. Mayor.
Indeed. Councillor Chuka will reiterate it, but I've asked him to accept your amendment, and he has unfortunately not accepted that. So I'm sorry. This is the first proposal that's been put forward, and it's been seconded.
Monthly town council meetings, but quarterly STBFs.
Exactly.
That's what I'm
yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah.
And this is for
24, 25.
It also, there's a caveat, this needs to be endorsed at the annual meeting of the council, because that's where we actually agree the schedule for next year, and that is in the standing order. So even if we make a decision here today, it does need to be endorsed at that meeting.
Indeed, that's correct. Okay,
so just quickly running through, town council monthly, the planning committee monthly, the heritage and townscape bi-monthly, Monk's Wall quarterly, finance and general purposes monthly, the Tollbridge Fund Finance Committee monthly, delegated down from Tollbridge Fund to the Tollbridge Finance. Make sure those delegations are in place before we move the Tollbridge Fund meeting to a quarterly meeting.
Indeed. Okay then. And we've had a seconder for that. So are you proposing?
Can I propose an amendment to that proposal?
Would you accept an amendment?
Well,
It's been proposed and seconded. I shouldn't really allow this, really. I'm sorry. It's been seconded.
Standing order state once it's proposed and seconded, it goes to vote.
Yeah, I'm very sorry about that. So, and the town clerk saying that. So
to clarify that Councillor Ungren did say there may be a need for more extraordinary meetings, and that would have to be included, but that's not a deviation from monthly and quarterly.
Exactly. We've had a proposal, we've had a seconder. By law, we have to go to the vote on this now. All those in favour of Councillor Chuka's proposal, please show and hold them up, because we need to count them. So
2 against, 3 against. Yeah, 3 against.
10 for and 3 against. So
my vote recorded, please, town clerk.
Indeed. So that proposal has been accepted. So, and it has to be ratified at the annual town meeting. Thank you very much for that, councillors. Item number 16 is Standing Orders Working Group. We'll just do this one before we take a break. And this is members to receive a report from Councillor Ian Black on the proposal to form a new working group to look at the way forward for reviewing the procedures and delegations. This is attachment number 8, and a decision is required on this as swiftly as possible. Please, thank you.
Right.
Councillor Black, would you like to...
Yes, it's a bit like waiting for a number 11 bus. You wait ages and then 2 come along. This and the previous item are actually intimately linked.
Yes.
There was absolutely no question about it, and that's what I was trying to get at this. So there are 3 parts to this. One, I believe that the way we nominate people for committees needs urgent review, and that has to be done for the April meeting. That's point number 1, and I think the existing Standing Orders Working Group should do that. There are then 2 other items. The financial regulations need to be looked at. It's been a long time since they have been amended. This from the RFO herself. Sums are up to date. Who should do that? Does it come under the aegis of Town Council or F&GP? I don't mind, but somebody needs to look at it. And I'm not suggesting our existing working group does it unless you ask us to.
Okay.
Right. The third point is, if you're going to make reduce the number of committee meetings, we've talked about delegation, terms of reference. Somebody needs to go through this in detail. We suggest that really this could be a completely reformed working group, or you could use the existing one. But if you have a reformed one, then people can volunteer and people can also step down from it. Quite simple. 3 proposals, 1 urgent, 2 need to be, the second and third need to be considered whether council or F&GP, and then you need to decide who's going to do it.
Super, thank you very much. Could I just ask you one question, Councillor Black? You said that it needed to be done by April.
Yes.
Would there be the capacity to undertake that?
Yes.
There would be. Okay, thank you very much. It's just a question that might be asked here. Councillor Marie, did you have a question?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to be clear on a couple of things. On the one main thing is how to appoint councillors to the committee. That is up to the leader of the council, that is up to the mayor of the council to do that. And the best is regarding our skills audits that we do every year, regarding things such as events and charities, etc., etc. So I still do feel that the mayor should have the rights of place to say who goes on what committee and who goes on what outside body, etc., etc. The other thing I'd like to speak about is the public participation part of the standing orders. Yes, we agree that the 5 minutes is fine, that's absolutely fine, there's no problem with that. However, there's been a number of occasions where myself and I believe now Councillor Mallet has asked to request to speak at the public participation part of full council, and we've been denied twice. However, on a couple of occasions, I must admit, I have as well at the Finance and General Purposes last month, but other councillors have spoken about things at other committee members, and I've challenged the town clerk on this, and nothing's to come about of it. So I would like the working group, the standards working group, to look at it to whether councillors are allowed to speak at the public participation part, because they may be representative of a resident who doesn't want to be here, who can't get here, and they would like to speak on their behalf. I do feel that free speech, everyone's entitled to their opinion, everyone's entitled to free speech in this country, and I do feel that councillors have the right to speak at the public participation.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Thank you for that. So we've got a proposal from Councillor Black. Did anybody else have any other questions on that before we get a seconder and go ahead with that at all? No? Is everybody fine with that? Oh, Councillor Wild?
I agree. The way we appoint people to committees needs to be properly examined. In terms of the recommendations, I think I'm not sure about the working group whether this should just be an FGP matter, but I think if it's not, it should be a working group that reports to FGP, and that's where it should be. As I said before, we're not using the delegated powers properly at the moment, and I think clearly this is a matter for FGP. I think there should be a tweaking of the standing orders and the terms of reference to allow any councillor to sit at any committee and speak at the table, but not to vote. So that when things come to council, everyone has had a chance to have their say, and we're not spending a long time debating what a particular committee has done or said, so that we can have confidence that that has been thoroughly looked at, and that we're just ticking it and moving on.
I endorse everything that you said, fine.
Kevin, sorry, thank you.
Yes.
And did we have?
Agree with Councillor Wells.
Did we have a seconder for Councillor Black? Also, we've got Councillor Pennington there. So, and all those in favour, please show.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, who are we saying are on this working group?
Oh, is this going to be a newly formed working group?
I don't know. That's what
The suggestion I've made is that you have a choice as a council. The urgent thing is the committees. Then in May you are going to put up more committees, and people stand or not stand for that, and I suggest you do that then. I really doubt you have the capacity to do much more between now and May, apart from the membership of the committees. However, the FNGP may take a different view of that. I've not discussed that in detail with Councillor Wiles, but that's up to you folks. That's your decision. We in the Working Party have done an awful lot of work, but I'm not sure everyone's necessarily wanting to continue forever and a day.
No, indeed.
So sorry, just to clarify, are we saying then this decision is now to defer to the Finance and General Purposes Committee? Is that the decision you're doing?
Because that's what we need to be clear.
Only the second and third.
Second and
third. The first one is STC.
Yes, but sorry, I'm just not clear what it is you're voting on at the moment. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I agree, because also I have great reservations myself of being able to implement something for reviewing the committees for the April meeting and getting a report in and getting it tied up. So I would personally, as a councillor, not as a mayor, would like to defer the first item, and the second item we need to clarify who's undertaking the work.
May I make the point that at the request of not overburdening the administration, I deferred this from February, and I will be extremely concerned if you defer it again. This is a critical decision about committees, and to defer it again when we've already once deferred it to take account of workload, I think is completely inappropriate.
I think Councillor Black, you need to readdress the timeline then because you've put a lot of pressure on either committee members or the town clerk to say that we're going to produce something for the April meeting, when the town clerk has said a couple of times tonight that this is the year end and the start of the new financial year. I think we all ought to calm down and think about things. We don't have to defer it, but put a different timeline onto it. I think to say that we've got 4 weeks to come up with something, just literally days before an annual festival or break in the year is, lots of people are going away on holiday. We could use a week or 10 days from people being away. What I'm trying to be is realistic about this.
Well, your alternative is defer the committees until June, July.
Indeed, there's a good suggestion. Can I bring in 2 other options here as well? Councillor Franklin first and then Councillor Marie.
Generally, at the start of a 4-year term, the committees are more or less set up, and you just tweak and don't councillors move if they want to be in another committee.
Indeed.
So I think, personally, I think the committees are working out quite well. I mean, the working group, I think they've reached their conclusion. I think they've come to the end of their life, personally, because you're just going to go on and on and on deferring it. I think the time now, the crunch has come, that we say, thank you for all your hard work you've done, but we just keep the committees, and you get the mayor and some of the little tweaks. I think even myself, I'm thinking of coming off a couple of the committees, because I'm on too many committees, and I would like to stand down from some of the committees. So I think that's what should happen. Individual councils should talk to the mayor and say, can I go on a committee, and it should be swapped round. But I don't think there's anything for this sledgehammer approach. I think the working groups should be finished. Thank you.
Indeed. And then Councillor Marie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand where Mr. Councillor Black's coming from, but I also understand where you're coming from. We're coming up to the end of the civic year for 2023. New civic year coming in May. New mayor, hopefully not. Hopefully you'll see. But the trouble is, it's actually be up to the mayor to decide who goes on what committee. If, say, for Councillor Franklin wants to stand down from planning, we're more than happy to put someone else on it. That's how it is. But it's just a story, Jeff. But that's how it should be. I do feel this should be deferred until after the new mayorship started in May.
I agree. So, Councillor Black, did you want to go ahead with your proposal, or would you prefer to amend it?
I will be prepared to amend it if you defer changes to the committees, but if you're still insisting that the committees have to be sorted in May, no, I will not defer.
Right, I see. Okay then.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. In the last 3 years I've been in council, and the last 12 years I've been involved in council. Every 4 years, nothing. The committees never really changed. They never have done. It's always been the same people. And for the years and years of the old boys that used to run it years and years ago, they've all stayed in the same place for those 25 years. Exactly. So, not counting you as an old boy, Councillor Franklin, you're all right. But that's how it's been, and that's how it's good that people do tend to move around to get more experience. But some people are more experienced in other things. But for me, I haven't got no clue in finance, so my wife does that for me.
Thank you.
Can I make a suggestion that after Easter, if I could communicate to all councillors with the current committee structure, so all the committees that people are currently sitting on, and ask you and give you maybe 2 weeks to think about whether or not there are committees that you would prefer to step down from, there are committees that you actually want to step up to, or if you want to have a change, or like Councillor Franklin said, and then that's something that we can work with, because it's like called a slate system. So basically, because you were elected for a year now, you nearly got to your first year, it's a system. You've already got the committee structure that we've been working with, so then that gives everybody an opportunity to have their input onto whether or not it's a committee, the committees they're prepared to stay on, or whether there's some that they'd actually like to join, or whether there's some they'd like to. Because then that will give us something to work with. I think at the moment it's very difficult for everybody to sit here, and we don't want an occasion where we sit through a meeting where everybody's individually got to be voted on or off, every committee, when we've got about 8 of them to get through.
Sorry, with respect, that's not the case. You have 3 situations. One situation where there's an exact number of people and placed on the committee. Ain't got a problem. You have a second situation where you have not got sufficient people, and you're going to have to try to get a job, right? Your real only problem is where there's more people that want to be on the committee than are actually places on the committee. That is the concern, that's where the problems have been, and that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, so get town clerk.
Thank you. So how we could address this is we could actually change the terms of reference to allow more people on a committee.
No, that's one way, but that's not what you know. You set up a working group and you quickly do it. It's not a huge task because the first two are not a problem. The third one is the problem.
Councillor Wiles.
Okay, if I can just read out the terms of reference. The council shall, at its annual meeting or otherwise as required, and subject to a proper motion, appoint such committees as it deems necessary and confirm their remit, terms of reference, level of authority, meeting dates and membership. And that's done at the annual meeting. Now the question, it's nothing to do with the mayor, by the way. The meeting does that. So the question for us is, how do we want to appoint members to committee? Do we want to do it by a voting, a secret vote, a show of hands, or just does it come out of the ether in some way? Is the question. My view would be either we have a formal process at that annual meeting where we have nominations for the committees. If there's fewer than required for each meeting, then we ask for additional. If there's more than required, then we have a vote. That would be the democratic way to do it.
I think this is getting slightly out of hand, with all due respect.
I think it's going to take too long because we used to have the formal traditional mayor making, didn't we, in the courtroom. Last year we had the formal mayor making here, didn't we? And the committees were, and then we had the traditional mayor making on another night. You are planning, I think, to do it all on the same night. At the moment, it just wouldn't work. You're talking about a time scale of about an hour, aren't you? To formally do it. So the committees really want to be sorted out prior and then announced on that night.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. I just wanted to say personally, as a councillor, I think the ideas that have been put forward are preposterous, because when I set up the committees with the town clerk this year, I set them up based on the people's skills for the committees. If somebody appoints Councillor Marie to a finance committee, he's just not going to turn up to the committee meetings. And likewise, if you appoint me to Gaze and Salts committee that meets on a Monday afternoon, I won't be turning up to those meetings. I still think myself, talking as a councillor, the best way, not as the mayor, but that the committees are set up on the basis of people's knowledge and skills and their vocations. And I think I would say that's the best option to go ahead, because it's being done on merit. It's not being done on who wants to go where with who's best friend and to achieve certain objectives. So I think it's preposterous anyway. Councillor Tomlins next.
I just want to add that I think if that works well, it works well. But if there is conflict, we do need a way to resolve that conflict.
Indeed,
because that's the issue.
I agree.
Because when it's smooth and people match and it works, but the issue has to be, what do we do when there is a conflict, and who? That's
right.
And a system for addressing that.
And to answer your question, Councillor Tomlins, when the committees were set up, they were set up on a provisional basis, and then the town clerk took input from people, and 2 or 3 of you did actually change committees, and that seems like the most sensible option to go forward. So, very lastly, then, Councillor.
Just quickly, I totally agree with what you're saying, because at the end of the day, the voting, if there's more people to go on the Townscape Heritage than there are on the finance and voted for it, I quite like Townscape Heritage because I do a lot of work regarding in Townscape Heritage. If there's 7 people that want to go to it goes to a vote, I know there's councillors here that don't like me. That's absolutely fine. That's their opinion. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. But I could get voted out of Townscape Heritage because others want to get in and vote in it instead. Don't like that idea. I think it's totally wrong. It should be done on skills audit. It should be done on merit of your experience and what you have in the town and what you know, and the knowledge that you have in the town as well.
Thank you. Finally, Councillor Wiles.
I think we're all adults, so we can all know what our skills are and our weaknesses as well. So we can all nominate ourselves to committees. I mean, perhaps a compromise on this, rather than having a voting, is for the chairs of the committees to get together, draw up a draft membership, and then send it out in advance of the town meeting. And if people have violent objections to any aspects of that, they can make it clear, and then we can maybe reach a consensus.
Might get new chairs.
Huh?
Might get new chairs with new committees.
No, the chair is elected at the first meeting.
Every year as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's,
Every year the new chair is elected for each committee. Because, say for instance, Councillor Anderson becomes mayor this year, or next year for the new civil year, they will need a new chair for that committee because she won't be able to stay as chair of that committee. Could you change the terms of reference when they came in 2022?
Exactly. So with all due respects, Councillor Black, I don't think
object
this
to
has been
being
thought
called
out.
preposterous. I strongly object to this being called preposterous. You may not agree with it, but if you're going to use words like that, then it's free rein for everybody. And this is
Indeed,
not
please
the
bring
way
it
to do
on, bring it on then.
I wouldn't ask you, I wouldn't advise that because you might regret that.
Yeah, bring it
But I
on.
strongly object to the word preposterous.
The Councillor Black, the item that is in discussion, we've been discussing for 20 minutes, so it's a very emotive subject. Everybody has got views. This is the largest number of views we've had on this item. Everybody's got views on it, and with all due respect, you're bringing something to us that needs to be implemented within a month's time with a national holiday in that month, and you're saying that it will go ahead perfectly and there would be no problem with that.
I didn't say that. You asked with the resource. I've spoken to my colleagues and we believe there is some. But if you call it preposterous, up to you.
That's my phraseology. I
Yes,
don't
it
have to
is.
put what I wish. So, going forward, Councillor Black has put a proposal forward. Can I have a seconder for it? It's been seconded by Councillor Pennington. Can you all vote accordingly, please?
Seven in favour, and 1, 2, 3, 4 against, and 1, 2, 3. Yes, 3. That's carried.
Is that carried?
Yes, 7 in favour.
Okay, that's carried. So we'll be expecting the results of the committees for the April meeting. Thank you. At this point, I will adjourn the Town Council meeting for a 5-minute break.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor, please.
I'll just wait till the councillors are seated. Right, everybody's speaking. Oh, was it relevant?
Well, yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Because of the time slipping, can I request, please, if council agrees, to because items 17, 18, 19 are to receive and note. Can we either do them on block to receive and note them, or can we defer them to the next meeting so we can carry on with item 20 and we can get on with the Tolby's funds? There's a lot of applications.
Indeed, thank you very much for that proposal. So that's a proposal there to actually take the following items of 17, 18 and 19 on block, as they are just notable items, and then we can move on to the grant applications. So that's been put forward.
Yeah, just one thing, Mr. Mayor, that I need to tell you on item 18, the Sandwich United Charities update from the Charity Commission. I've spoken to the chair of the Sandwich United Charities, and they are calling a meeting to discuss the response they've had from the Charity Commission. Once they've had their meeting, they will let me know and I will report back to the council.
That's very kind of you. Thank you very much for that. So are you seconding it, Councillor Moore?
No, there's decisions required on these. They're not notes, there's decision. It says here, decision required, decision required, decision required.
Town Clerk?
Decision to note the information. Right. Yeah, that's the decision. Yeah.
So a proposal's been put forward. Are you seconding it, Councillor?
I agree with the principle of it. Just the risk register, I think that should be noted, but it should come to FGP for more detailed scrutiny. Because there are things on there which I feel need to be looked at, and
Indeed.
FGP hasn't yet report today.
And that's-
Just briefly.
Yes, exactly on exactly the same point. I had wanted to propose that we took it to F&GP to review it and to bring it back to STC in 3 months' time, maybe.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And are you seconding it? Thank you very much. All those in favour, please signify. So I think that's everybody. Thank you very much for that. Okay. And so that's to note those. And then item number 20, isn't it? Item number 20 is the insurance renewal for Sandwich Town Council. Members to consider a report from the responsible financial officer for a recommendation for the insurance renewal, and a decision is required here, and this is attachment number 12. Oh, thank you, Councillor Wallace.
I mean, the increase is disturbing, to say. And it's disturbing that the three other providers weren't prepared to offer a quote. I'm just questioning the email from Zurich. It says that the Guildhall is over 20 million. That's the value of the Guildhall, is it? Or is that the rebuild? That's the cover.
Yeah.
What does that 20 million refer to?
Contents as well. Contents.
It's probably the rebuild cost, I should imagine.
The rebuild cost.
Well, we could get clarification
Okay,
on that.
it seemed a large figure anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know what option we've had. Do we go out to other providers, or do we just bite the bullet and go with this?
Let's, Town Clerk.
Yeah, there have been huge challenges because we have listed properties, we have, you know, very bespoke individual, you know, these are not usual properties and buildings. It's very, very difficult, and the RFO spent a lot of weeks trying to get, you know, her head around it. Some companies would quote for certain properties and others, so we have come up with this as the only viable solution at the moment, and that's, you know, after a lot of time we've spent.
Also, I did want to mention, I hope everybody picked up that about the flood risking, and both the other consultants said that in order to get the flood risking, Zurich seemed to be the only one to cover the properties in the flood zone. So that's just from me as a councillor, and it's not to sway you either way. Councillor Chuka and then Councillor Black.
So I'd like to propose that we do accept this on the basis of a 3-year policy. I'd like to thank the finance officer for the sterling work she's done, because actually there's quite a lot of detail in this, so please pass that on to her. This is a good report. We've had, you know, a variance in the past, but this is really good, and I think we should thank her for that. I think also, let's not fool ourselves, insurance across the piece has gone up astronomically. Car insurance, household insurance, etc. I'm not surprised that it's 35%. And I propose that we accept a 3-year policy.
Thank you for that, Councillor Chuka, and then Councillor Black.
I just want a bit of clarification. I agree with the points that Councillor Chuka has made about the work it's going to do. The 3-year one, is that a fixed price per year for 3 years?
Yes, that's correct.
It is. Okay, thank you. That's all I want to know.
Okay. And Councillor.
Yes, I'd like to second Councillor Super.
Oh, super.
Yeah, I mean, we're all on a floodplain here, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's all our properties, it's not just this building.
Yeah.
And so I think it's, and, well, I had house insurance, they told mine went up. I said, how come my house is insured? They said, you're half a mile of the river. I said, I live on a hill. But then he automatically said, because you're in half a mile of the river, and said, whack it up.
Thank you very much for that. So we've had a proposal and we've had a seconder. Could everybody vote accordingly? Okay, and that is carried. Thank you very much, councillors. And item number 21 is date of the next full council meeting, and that's the 29th, Monday the 29th of April 2024. Thank you very much on that one.